So this week's topic is trans parenting and fatherhood. And this is a huge topic for me, and I have a lot to say about. And I know that some of you might not have anything to say about it because you might not want to have kids. But for me, this is also kind of a two-parter. I'm not going to make a two-part video, but it's going to be kind of long because there's how to have kids and then there's how to raise kids. So it's kind of a big topic. First off, how to have kids. There's a lot of options here for trans guys, although it feels like we don't have a lot of options because the option that most of us would like is not there. It's not going to be easy, but there are some possibilities. So, first option that I know of for a lot of trans guys I know a few trans guys who have done this, is to have your own children. And when I say I know trans guys who've done it, I mean I know of, like Thomas Beatty and um, like I can picture them, but I don't know who they are. I know people who've done it, particularly guys who have kids and then transition later on. That happens. But it's not really on the table for me. First off, there aren't a lot of benefits to me because I date. I'm currently dating someone who doesn't produce sperm, so we still wouldn't be able to have a child together. So it's just not worth it to me. Maybe if I were dating a man and married to a man, it would be worth it to me, but it would invalidate my identity in a lot of ways, and it doesn't have to, but it would personally for me. It'd be really painful, scary. Um, and I've been on testosterone for a long time, and I don't really know um, how that would affect my body carrying a child or anything. So that's just not on the table for me. And then adoption is another option, and that's not really on the table with my girlfriend and I. Just as a side note, my girlfriend and I have been together 9 months, and we're talking about our future together, and we're very serious. We live together and are talking about getting married and things like that. So a lot of these options I've discussed with her, and so it's not just my opinion, but what works for us. And adoption wouldn't work for us because my girlfriend really wants to be pregnant. So and also adoption can be really messy and complicated and difficult and expensive. So maybe not for us, but still kind of on the table. And then the third option would be using a sperm donor and my eggs, and this is something that we actually seriously discussed last night because I'm thinking about putting off a hysterectomy to do that. And I just wrote an article about that for artoftransliness. It won't come up for a few days, but I did a lot of research on it, and it's really expensive, but it might be one of the better options for the two of us because I would really love to have biological children without carrying them, and we would both get the experience that we want. I would have children that are related to me. She would get to be pregnant. So that would be really awesome for us. Unfortunately, it's expensive, it's invasive, and I would have to go off of hormones for a while. I don't know if my eggs are damaged, etc., etc. So that's not the option that I see happening, but it's the ideal. Um, the other option, the fourth option that I think will will probably happen with in my case, but maybe not, is using a sperm donor and my girlfriend's eggs and her womb. So I wouldn't be biologically related to my child, which is something that I've been grappling with lately, being upset about a little bit that I may not have biological offspring, but it would be pretty good. Uh, Cheaper. So of all of those options, I feel a little guilty that I don't necessarily want to adopt because it's almost like, as an LGBTQ person, like a calling, like I'm supposed to adopt. I know there are a lot of children out there who need to be adopted, so I feel a bit guilty about that. And I also feel a bit guilty about caring so much about having biological children, but it is something that I think about a lot. I have a nephew who was born 2.5 months ago, almost 3 months, and holding him, I was just thinking, is this the closest that I'm ever going to get to having offspring that are related to me? Like looking at him and seeing, oh, he looks kind of like me. So, despite the fact that I would really love to not care about that, I do, and I have been grappling with like infertility issues that. Um, Thinking about a lot. But anyway, then there is the question of how to tell my child that I am trans and that I may or may not be their biological parent. Obviously, this discussion will be different with the child, like, depending on whether or not they're adopted or um, genetically related to me or whatever. Like, it's going to be a different conversation no matter what, but there is going to be the conversation that I'm trans. I definitely would not want to keep it from my child. I'd want to be open with them, and I would want to be open with them from a young age. But it's way easier said than done. I know that. I was thinking, like, I love to draw and write, and so I was thinking of writing a children's book for my child, specifically, like, about our family, like, called, like, The Story of Us or something, and have a picture of me when I was a little kid, and be like, um, your dad was born a girl. It's um, and grew up to be a man, and we're different, and that's okay. And people are different. And look, there's other families where the parents are divorced, and there are other families where the children are adopted or whatever. And this is a story of you, and that just being an everyday part of their life where it was never a secret. They always knew, and it wasn't very interesting to them. Um, and I know that children talk, so if I'm stealth, like, that can be a really big issue. But I kind of have had practice with this because my 4-year-old niece, who I'm extremely close to, I see about every day, except on weekends, um, she kind of went through my transition with me. She barely remembers me being female identified and my female name and things like that, but it's been explained to her, and she has not gone around talking about it, surprisingly. She's in preschool, like, it's not, and dance class and things like that. It's not like she's not around people who don't know that, and she just hasn't found it interesting enough to share with other people. I don't know. We explained that it's very rare, but that my parents thought I was a girl when I was little, and I grew up to be a boy, and that's totally fine and normal, and everyone accepts it. And I've been really lucky to have parents who are able to explain it to her and have it be very convincing that it's okay. You know, they didn't, I think that even if, I think that children can sense if people aren't okay with things. So it's good that they are okay with things. So she didn't pick up on any, like, oh, this is weird, this is wrong, this is unnatural, you know. So that was good. And my family has just been really chill about it, and so I'm hoping that that will repeat itself with my children. And so this was something I worried about a lot until I was actually talking to a partner of a trans man, and they recently got married, and she was saying that they don't know how to tell their future children, and they're really stressed about it, and I'd felt that way too. And then I was telling her the story of telling my niece, and I was like, wait, that transfers. Like, I can use that experience and as a lesson to how I'll treat my own children. And I think it'll be fine. I mean, you raise your kids and you impart all these values on them, and for the most part, they pick up on those things. So if you're really LGBTQ friendly and your partner is and your family is, it's really unlikely that you're going to raise like a transphobic child. I mean, it happens, but I think that for the most part, kids grow up more or less with their parents' values. Obviously, that isn't always the case, but usually it works where kids end up more accepting than their parents, not more like bigoted. So, I mean, like I said, it happens, but I think it'll be fine. I'm not too worried about it. As for like dealing with legal issues, if you're married legally to a woman and she has a baby, you have the right to put yourself as the dad on the birth certificate. Unfortunately, if you die and like wants your child to have social security and things like that, sometimes it can be challenged. If they find out you're trans, they might be like, well, it's impossible for that person to be the biological father. So like, if you aren't biologically related to your child, you can have some issues, which is another reason why IVF is something that Kelly, my girlfriend, and I have talked about, because like, it would be nice for us to both have a legal claim to our child, because if you give birth, you have a legal claim to the child, and if you donate your egg and you don't sign like a waiver, you have, you know, a legal right to the child. So that would be great. So that's something that I worry about a bit. with any situation, being trans, having people find out, having uh, them get teased at school and things like that. And, those are some concerns. But for the most part, I think, like, I was raised Jewish, and this will come up in another video, but I know what it's like to be raised a minority, and um, because of my family, and not a visible minority. You know what I'm saying? So, like, if you are the child of a queer couple, it's not a visible minority for the most part, but it is a minority, and I know what it's like, and it turned out okay. And being Jewish is a way bigger minority where I grew up than I know for other people. If I say, "Oh, I was raised Jewish," they're like, "Okay, so what?" But for me, I was the only Jewish child in the entire school system. Most people didn't know what that was. Some people asked me how I was speaking English. I mean, like, no one knows what that is around here. So, I do kind of know what it's like, and I know that it just kind of makes you stronger. And I think that as long as they don't get like beaten up and things like that, it should be fine. And yeah, so in recap, I do want to have kids. Not entirely sure how I want to have them, and I am a little nervous about how to tell them I'm trans and things like that. But I'm trying to stay positive, and I know I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. So yeah, it's harder for us to make our families. We have to work harder for it than most people, but I think that it ends up being okay usually. And it sucks that we have to think so much about it. My girlfriend and I toss around baby names all the time, and that's a really fun thing to do, talking about whether or not you're going to have to go through a series of injections, go off of testosterone, and have a minor surgery in order to have your eggs harvested is not fun. It's not fun to talk about at all. I would take talking baby, like choosing baby names or even arguing over baby names any day compared to that. So, but yeah.